Hello and welcome back. This is going to be part 3. I had already done it, but thanks to Uranus, the third part did not take, and so I'm going to do it over again. That's okay though. That tells me that what needs to be said will be said now, and what was said then is irrelevant. So I was explaining some of the timeline stuff. The first timeline is like the wonderful, magical, everything changes and becomes beautiful and harmonious and has higher level contrast and things like that. The second one is kind of in the middle to where he becomes conscious of what's going on and chooses our physical 3D union and is inspired by my choosing of self healing and things like that to be on his own journey of that and recognizes he can do that a lot better in physical 3D union with me than in karmic ties, which unironically, when you look at attachment theory and attachment traumas, oftentimes one of the best ways to heal attachment trauma is by having either a platonic or a romantic relationship with someone who is emotionally secure. Um, and that's very likely. The third timeline is where and there's many timelines. I'm just only listing three. I could write a book on how many potential timelines there are and that I can see of my own, and there's still infinite ones beyond what I can see. But the third one is that it goes more dryly upon what psychology in modern day would assume is that he's going to be stuck in these pain cycles and karmic cycles for the rest of his life because he's older and that's just that's just the way that it's going to be, and that I need, like, if I choose a relationship with him, that I am choosing to accept all of his flaws and things of that nature as they are, because it is unrealistic to expect somebody to change, and it's unhealthy. You shouldn't get with somebody because you want them to change or because you see potential in them. And in that timeline, which exists on some reality, I'm working to line myself up with the first, something like the first timeline, but I'm also okay with this timeline, which would be where he continues on his cycles and he comes in and out of ascension, and I'm going to call it descension and things like that. And I, for me, am not ever going to go back to being to being toxic with him. I'm not going to do that. Though I cannot force him to change. All I can do is choose him or not choose him. And I look at it, this took some months to really look at, not even just months. I mean, I've been thinking about it for years when I was in 3D union with him, and thinking about it like going, I do love him. And even I've had multiple psychologists even affirm it's not limerence, it's not some fake love, it's not based on codependence. I genuinely love him. And it's great to have that confirmation. I already knew that, but it's good to have that confirmation from the dry psychological side too. And I've had it confirmed through experienced spiritual practitioners too. And so just loving someone does not necessarily mean that it is a healthy choice to be in a 3D dynamic with them, because it's so easy, like the person, especially when you intermingle sexually, you intermingle your energy with them. Though you could easily get with somebody who is, you could find a soulmate who's very, very complimentary to you, that you can have a very emotionally secure relationship with and not have all of those challenges. You can go that way. And part of the problem a lot of twins run into is that we choose pain over love. And especially if you have a twin who consistently chooses pain over love, which is usually choosing toxic karmic cycles over a healthy one with their twin, you have to recognize that we reflect, and that if you are choosing them and all you are experiencing is pain in choosing them, like in waiting for them or taking them seriously every time they show you some real emotion and thinking that that means that they're coming towards you, things like that, then you also are choosing pain over love, which is something that I did consistently for a while. And so I wanted to look at it like I want to heal that part of me which goes, well, but I love him, so I must be willing to choose pain over love, and look at a timeline to where he can exist as he is in the adorable, mischievous way that he is, without choosing pain over love myself. And so one of the timelines I'm open to is that, you know what? he might continue on with what he's doing. He might continue to have multiple karmics. He might continue to have karmic issues with workaholism and things like that. And then the question becomes like, would I choose that? And if the answer is yes, how can I choose that and still continue on my healing journey and do healing missions and things like that? And I realized, well, you know what? Therein is the irony. I could manifest any kind of relationship that I want. I could manifest one that's healthy and calm and low to no drama and things like that. Though I've had some relationships like that and there wasn't really any growth in it. It was quite boring. And like I don't want a relationship of extremes either, though I know that we grow through contrast, like just like a plant that, without any wind or rain or stormy nights or intense days of heat, it doesn't grow as strong. If it was just a regular sunny day with no wind every day, those plants would not grow strong and healthy. And we humans are much the same. We grow through the contrast. When we go through our dark night of soul moments, we, assuming we choose what it means and that it means that we're going towards healing, then we come out of that more healed. We've shed layers of shadow and ego, and we become we naturally sit in higher vibrations each time we go through that, and that is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And so by looking at it that way, and it was fun to talk to my therapist about it in that sense, because he's like, oh, good, I've never known you to be a silly person who might choose delusions, and so I just wanted to make sure this wasn't one of those times, whether it's helping you or not. And I said, well, you know what? I mean, I can hold both in my mind, but I also like to be realistic, and I like the mixture between the spiritual and manifesting and law of attraction and psychology and things like that. So I like to take what Spirit's been telling me in terms of be open to all outcomes and really look at all outcomes. And where that got me to is realizing that so many of us choose relationships based on this fantasy of, like, you meet someone and you fall in love with them and you have a wonderful honeymoon phase, and then your relationship is like a fantasy, like knights in shining armor and kings and queens, and it's more fun than it is not fun. And like, we should never fight or have things that are unresolved, and there should never be like ghosting or things that are unfun. Now granted, I'm not saying that an abusive relationship is one to choose. Like, my twin has been very immature. He's never been abusive. The few times we got close to that line between Spirit's protection and my boundaries, it never happened again. And the rest of it is pretty much up to immaturity, and there's very clear indicators he's not a narcissist on a diagnosed level, and that he's just got a lot of trauma and pain cycles that he goes through. And I am a firm believer that even if your twin could possibly be abusive, then twin or not, that, like, choosing a relationship that's pain over love, if you really believe that they're your twin, then you got to stop choosing them for them to reflect and stop choosing their own pain cycles. So either way, abuse is a no-no. It's an absolute no-no. But there are plenty of things that feel abusive, and mostly what it is it's triggering our ego. It's triggering issues with self-worth, with fears of abandonment, things like that. And you can't control most of what happens in life. You can't control other people. You can't control what happens. You can, however, always control the meaning that you attach to something. And I've been looking around in my life saying, you know what? In the moments that things were all good and there was no contrast, there was hardly anything happening. And in the moments that there was contrast, that there was some positive pressure, that there was even some negative pressure, I've grown more than anything. And I definitely am not choosing a life that's full of contrast only. I like the mixture of lulls and highs and lull and lows and things of that nature. And I really like the contrast that my twin provides. We're literally polar opposites, like astrologically, we're polar opposites. And in a lot of ways, personality wise, we are also opposites. The irony being we're also a lot more complementary to each other than anyone else that we've been with. And so it's an interesting balance, even among the dark nights of soul and the no communication moments and the illusion of separation moments and things of that nature. So we have a good balance in there. This plot twist that we're going through is actually, for me, another confirmation of that, and he's been starting to see it too and recognizing it's a continuation of what has been mostly good. Though the hard part has been we both have had this idea in our minds that a relationship was magical in a fanciful way rather than in the real way that it actually is magical. And a lot of you, I'm sure, also grew up like us on the Disney version of relationships and things like that. And a lot of people get stuck in the Beauty and the Beast fantasy sort of thing, especially feminines. We get stuck in this. We find a masculine who's got a lot of pain cycles and is fairly broken, and we kind of have this like subconscious view that we can love them enough to change them, and then it'll break the spell just in time and they'll turn into a wonderful prince and life will be good from there on out. But they don't show the rest of the story. In fact, I've been laughing ever since Wicked and the series of books and that where the author goes through and tells the story of the villains of the story. I've been thinking about like writing the story after Beauty and the Beast, like what happens when the Beast is now a human prince and like dealing with the ups and downs of that, and also the pre-story, like how did he get into being the Beast and things like that, which there's a little bit of it if you look back into the Grimm fairy tales, but there's still not like a detailed novel about it, and that seemed fun. In any case, a lot of us get stuck in that, and so when we meet somebody that is very triggering for us and is in a lot of pain, we get stuck in this idea that we can save them. And that's very codependent. That's not a healthy thing to be. If you find someone, twin or not, that you very much love and they're in and out of pain cycles, you need to find a balance between having and holding faith that they can heal themselves, they can connect with spirit and do their healing work, and that they will, and also be in a place where you are recognizing that they might not ever do that, and it's neither your job or your responsibility, nor is it within your power to be able to heal them. Like, yes, love itself can be very healing, but that's not always enough. And we get stuck in believing that if we just love them enough, if we just don't rock the boat, if we just be quiet long enough and give and give and give and give, that we can change them. And that's definitely not among the lines of healthy ways to view things, especially in the twin flame journey. And I know a fair amount of others who are either more experienced and further along in their journey than I am, or at the same level I'm at, or just behind it, that have found themselves in a similar place to where they no longer choose relationships either with their twin or with others based on the fantasy of like the Beauty and the Beast thing, nor do they expect to run into somebody and have them just be perfect. There are times when spirit will, reward you and line you up with a soulmate that from the beginning you can tell that it's going to be really fun and really sweet and stuff like that. Though even those relationships are not without contrast, and where a lot of us run into problems is that we meet someone who at first seems perfect and very complimentary, and they're good to us in ways nobody else has, and then we find that when we trust them and we allow ourselves to engage with them, then suddenly we see a whole bunch of red flags we didn't know to check for, and that we we got ourselves into the very thing we were afraid of, which was a relationship that would hurt us, and not realizing that we manifested that by being afraid of it in the first place. And then we get scared of love again. And a lot of that happens to us through our twins and through similar karmic relationships, because we're not facing our own need to self-love, like to give ourselves everything we could want from a relationship through self-love. And the irony is that once you can be genuinely healthy and independent, you can give yourself all of the